Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com. We're a full service CX and UX agency. Check us out. And today is October 5th, 2021. And this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, but it's not just Ask Me Anything because we have a special guest today by request. So remember, when you ask for stuff, you get stuff. So let's bring in Stéphanie Walter, and we're getting panda bears and happy faces from Aytan, who had requested you, and she says, Happy Teacher's Day. So I guess that's us. And before we start, Stéphanie, if you would please spell your name for the listeners and give everybody an introduction to you.
Sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Stéphanie Walter. It's spelled Stephanie, and Walter Walter. I'm a UX researcher mostly at the moment and a UX designer. I live and work in Luxembourg. I've been there for like 5 years. Before that, I was in France, and I was also working in Germany. And I mostly work in enterprise UX, B2B, SaaS products. I enjoy designing complex tables with 17 columns and super complicated kind of user flow because, business needs are sometimes really, really complicated. So
we
that's
need
the
that
thing.
too.
I work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And where can we find you on web, Twitter, Instagram? Where do we find you?
So Twitter is Walter Stéphanie because the other one was taken and I was not able to get it. So last name, first name. LinkedIn is Stéphanie Walter Pro, I think, because again, the other one was taken. And StephanieWalter.design as a website.
Cool. Well, then
It's
we will
yellow and purple.
I'll follow you. So we opened this up to questions a few days ago, and we already have a squillion questions. So I am going to be putting these up on the screen using my new technique so that you, Stéphanie, and everybody at home can see what questions you're answering. So they're going to cover up me, but I'm not important. So we've got 5 questions from Aytan, and then we actually had some people send in questions that were very close, so I grouped them together. So first, from Aytan, what inspires and empowers you? What keeps you going? And that was very close to another question we got, which was, how do you preserve your curiosity and motivation? What do you do when you don't feel like working? So I think these are all kind of connected.
Yeah, sure. So motivation at the moment is anything not related to UX, to be honest, because there's a lot of noise and I'm a little bit overwhelmed with all the articles and all of that. So at the moment, I'm more interested into illustration, art, generative art also, and I'm super passionate about the really cool stuff we can do in CSS and browser APIs. I'm going back a little bit more to the tech side and technical stuff. So yeah, like people drawing cool things in CSS is my jam at the moment. And frustration also, which is maybe not so a lot of things do is out of frustration, like writing stuff like that. So when something annoys me, instead of kind of lashing out, I usually give it a little bit of time. And I end up writing an article or drafting a conference on this is annoying. How might we improve it? So this is why I have a conference called Hello, my name is Stéphanie with the E acute misspelled, because many non-European or let's face it, American websites think that only the, as they call it, English alphabet, which makes 0 sense, is correct. So they have a lot of websites trying to remove the E acute, poorly encoding it. So based on this frustration, I kind of wrote an article at a conference. So yeah, frustration is kind of a good way to keep you on your toes and try to find some ways to move forward, I would say.
All right, I will put up the next question, also from a good friend of the show, Aytan. We say a lot of, it depends. Hold on, I made a graphic. There we go. We say a lot of it depends. I'll put that back up. But what are some things that are not open for discussion when it comes to UX work?
Oof, haha. I think it's complicated because we work with human beings, so you have so many external factors when you work with human beings and human brains and psychology and things like that, or just with like users and stakeholders, that it's really really hard to have any certainty at all. So I would say the only thing that doesn't depend is no one is irreplaceable, which means you can take holidays. And it also means you need to document at some point some things. But yeah, I would say that's kind of the only rule is I have a friend who likes to say cemeteries are full of irreplaceable people. So I would say this is the only thing that doesn't depend, which is don't work yourself, and self-care is super important, especially in UX design, because you're going to talk to people a lot, interview some people, and sometimes you might have really difficult conversations. Like when I was working in health tech, for instance, I have really triggering conversation. I will not mention the topics, but it was not the kind of conversation I was expecting to have with some doctors at 10 o'clock in the morning. And it still happened. And by the end of the day, when I came back to my hotel room, because I was traveling for that, I was like, wow, that was heavy. That was intense. So yeah, sometimes you need some time to think about those things and make sure you don't overwork yourself. So I think this is the only thing that doesn't depend. Take care of yourselves,
I like
basically.
that.
Yeah, it's important. It
It
sounds
doesn't
silly, but
depend.
it's
Take
really,
care of yourself.
yeah, it
Thank you.
doesn't depend.
Are you ready for the next one?
Okay, but do
Oh,
you also answer the question, or am I the only one? Because if
I'm
someone asks
everyone wants
questions
to hear
for
from
Debbie,
you. They listen to me all week
okay.
long. Come on, let's listen to you for a change. I'll be the moderator. I think the next one is aimed at both of us, but for the most part, I want to hear your answers. Everyone can hear me all day long. You both mentor and coach people. Is there any particular mistake you see newbies making over and over? Oh my God, that's a whole show. Uh,
Yes.
Oh, go ahead first.
Mm,
What can you think of some?
I think the one that frustrates me, and I don't know where it comes from, is ratings in resumes.
Oh
Like, I
yeah,
don't care if you have no, 4 out of 5 stars in Figma. What does it mean? I have no idea. Well,
right.
what's the scale, and like, how am I supposed to interpret that or something? So, I think it's a lot of interesting space that you put that you could use for something else in your resume. So I know it's trendy and I know it makes it look nice or something, but ratings in resumes, I'm not sure it gives accurate information about anything. So I would avoid that. And also, I hate that I have to say that still today, but don't lie, don't steal from other people, because the
Yeah,
community is quite small.
yeah, that's
I
true.
recently had I had a junior steal the illustration from my website. So I reached out, I was like, hey, could you please remove those? Because I drew them and they're not open source or something. So, and also like I interviewed some people, and you know, when you have this feeling where the portfolio is meh, but then you see kind of the case studies like, oh, this is dribble level bullshit. Like everything is 3D isometrics into beautiful iPhone and everything. So
But
like
look, I
something
rounded
is
the
fishy.
corners of the
Yeah.
containers.
So the level of the case studies were not at all the same level as the rest of the design of the portfolio. And you know, it's fishy. And then it only took me 5 minutes to find from whom this person, those people actually, because it happened quite a lot of time, unfortunately, stole in on Dribble. So usually I give them the benefits of the doubt. I reach out to the person on Dribble or Behance like, hi, this person has this in their portfolio. Did you work with them by any chance? Because maybe they're not a visual designer, but someone else created the case studies. Like of course, benefits of the doubt, but so far, every time the answer was no, they just stole my work and put it into their resume. And I'm just amazed. Like, if you work with some people, it's okay, but at least credits were due, explain your role, things like that. So, yeah, don't steal, don't lie. Really, like basic stuff. So,
Yeah,
this is, yeah, the things.
if I had to add a few things, I think there's unfortunately an accidentally long list of things I would suggest newbies consider. But I think if I had to pick my top two, number one would be you never stop learning. Some of the people who are like, well, I did a 12-week boot camp or an online course or I read a few books, you know, hey, I'm a certified UX designer or whatever. They make it seem like they're done, and I think that's a mistake. And I think people should always be, actually I'll do three, because so the cousin of that one would be some of the entitlement that I see from some people. Not all of you low ego action heroes. But certainly around LinkedIn, I bump into a lot of people who are like, hey, I did some IDF courses. I'm certified. Where's my job? Or I did a 12-week boot camp. I got a certificate. Where's my job, you
Mm.
gatekeepers? Gatekeepers, give me a job. And I'm thinking that's a really big sense of entitlement, and especially in an industry that kind of requires humility. When I see people having the opposite of humility, I think it doesn't help your chances of getting a job. You're absolutely allowed to be
Mm.
frustrated at the job market and disappointed, and many jobs are unreasonable. But I don't think you want to come off as, hey, come on, where's my job? I did the least possible education I could. Where's my job? And stuff like that. And now I forgot the third. I should have written it down. Oh yeah, not being
Uh,
open to feedback. If you're just looking to hear how great you are and how you're going to get that job any minute, I'm sure there's lots of people on ADP list who will tell you that. But I think that it's really important for newbies to hear difficult feedback. You know, we were just having a conversation in the Slack channel about someone new to UX was trying their first survey, and I thought the survey had a lot of flaws in it. But I don't blame that person. I blame the school this person's going to for what they must have taught this person and why nobody caught some of these mistakes. So I'm hoping that person is open to hearing that that survey was tough, and how they can do better. Hi, Emma Muzo. So yeah, those are some things that I would say. Next question, boom, boom, pow. What's one UX related advice a mentor or someone you trust gave to you that stuck with you forever?
Um, trust your instincts. As in, if something smells fishy, if there's red flags when you have a conversation with a company or something, trust your instincts, because most of the time the instincts is not you being kind of believing, I don't know, in the position in of Mercury at the moment. Something I read
Right.
something about
Mercury retrograde.
astronomics and yeah, that thing. So this is not your instincts. Usually your instincts is basically your brain, which is a supercomputer analyzing patterns in the background and telling you, you might not be consciously, you might not have seen those red flags consciously, but you know this and this, and this is gonna be an issue for you. So yeah, trust your instincts, and when in doubt, lay out the facts. Be really like this, and this, and maybe double check with someone. Kind of, I do that. We do that a lot. I have a circle of close friends, like three amazing women and a non-binary person, where we have a secret Slack and we do these reality checks sometimes. Like, okay, am I tripping or is this happening? Like, can you just, like, this is the facts. Can we just discuss this? Is this going to be a problem? Or because sometimes I can get angry at things and they would be like, no, you're just pissed today. So don't planning, or sometimes they're like, yeah, this is totally not okay, not appropriate, or something like that. So yeah, trusting the instincts. I think it's always a good thing after a few years and a while.
I would
I don't know.
say, oh,
What
sorry.
about you?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
what
would
about you?
say, probably something my grandfather said to me a few months before he died. Sorry to bring the room down for a moment, but he asked me if I was working on a certain project, and I said, "Oh, Grandpa, I don't have time." And he just looked at me and he said, "You make time for what's important to you."
Mm,
And that has stayed with me forever. Whenever somebody's like, "Oh, I can't do that. I don't have time." My thought is, if it were important to you, you would make time. And so I think that's something that stayed with me, and just to make sure that for the people who are important to me and the work that's important to me and all the stuff that's important to me, to make sure I make time for those people and those things, and not use time as an excuse. There's plenty of excuses we can make, but I'm not going to let time be one of them. Aytan says my dog agrees, and Destiny says great advice. Give yourself reality checks. Yeah, I certainly agree.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else that's stayed with me, but I'll let you know if I think of something. And finally, our
Always
last
wear.
question. What?
I had a friend who said always wear clean underwear in the morning because you don't know where this day might head. I was like, yeah, true,
Clean
true as
underwear is a
well.
good choice no matter what. You know,
Yeah.
it's really good. Olivia, mommy's doing a show. Do you want to be on the show? You hate being on camera. Maybe if you put her on camera, she'll shut up. Sorry, everybody. The dog doesn't like the neighbor's best friend, so it's an ongoing battle. Our last question from Aytan, who sent in 5 questions ahead of time, so we're going to make sure we get those out of the way and give her good answers. Aytan, how are we doing? At what point did you realize that you were seasoned enough to share your knowledge and lead or mentor others?
So I will split it into share the knowledge versus lead and mentor. So share the knowledge, technically, I've always done that. Like, I'm one of those annoying person who didn't learn math because by explaining the math test to the other people, she basically like learned the math. So I've always been like, for me, in order to understand something, it's easier for me to explain it to someone else, if that makes sense. So I've always been kind of like sharing the knowledge. And then when I started in the industry, I already had a technical blog before that. And I just like started writing things about, I don't know, I think my first article ever was about how to do CSS sprites, because at that time we didn't have rounded borders in CSS. And maybe it's because I learned a lot by myself. I have a master degree in web design and localization, which is like how do you translate a product, but it's not just the translation, it's also all the technical part about making sure the product is well fitted into another cultures and things like that. So there's a lot of things around translation. It's not just like languages. And I did this master degree. We had like they called it ergonomy. I would say it was UX class, but it was more called like usability than UX at the time. But I didn't really have like a proper HCI training or something. So I learned a lot via books and via a lot of free blogs. So I've always wanted to give back to the community. Kind of, I felt like it was my duty because I found so many resources and was happy to find them. So I would say there's no requirement of how long have you been in the industry until you start sharing something. There's this thing called a candid eye, which is when you're a beginner, you can share things because it's amazing, because you might have a unique perspective that some people who have been around for so many years might not see anymore because they're so used to that. Like when I used to teach CSS and I had question, I was like, I don't know how to answer this question because I've always done it like that in CSS. So let me come back to you. I will investigate as to why do we do it like that. There must be a good reason, like a technical reason in the browser, but I don't know. So I will check. So I really like this really like candid questions about things we take for granted, and as a teacher is like, no, why do we even do that? So yeah, so I would say start sharing even as a junior, even if you start, can be part of the process. Just again, make sure you're honest about it. If you're a junior and you talk about something, don't let people believe you're an expert. That's the only thing. Like, I have a super big pet peeve with some stuff on Medium. I was looking for a task analysis at at some point, and I found so many articles about how to do a task analysis for painting a room, and I'm like, why are so many people obsessed with painting a room? And it turns out
Didn't you
that
find something
it
like
was a
270 articles on painting a
yeah,
room?
the I think a lot were removed since, but it was 2000. It was articles from 2017, and what happened is that a bootcamp asked people to do basically kind of a task analysis with little storyboards on how to paint the room. Like, decide on the color, paint the room, wait for it to dry. It's like, okay, this is super weird. And they asked the students to share those on Medium. But I think one student said it was an exercise, and none of the others said that. So it was really, really was first, why is everyone obsessed with painting a room all of a sudden? Okay. And then you don't really kind of know why, the context and stuff. So I would say share things because you have a unique perspective, but just be honest about kind of, maybe if it's the first time you use a method, it could be interesting. Like, okay, this is the first time I did personas or wireframes or something, and this went well. I think this could be improved and stuff like that. So I don't think you need any kind of, you don't need to be seasoned enough to share anything, to be honest. And lead and mentors, this is a fun one. So lead, usually I end up being a lead because no one, because the team is disorganized, and I like things organized. So I end up usually trying to organize a little bit the work and organize how we are, what we are doing and where we are going. So I usually end up with doing the lead job without having the official title or the actual salary, which can be
Been
frustrating. It's
there.
not this case. Yeah, it's not the case anymore, which is great. And for mentoring, I didn't know I was a mentor until someone actually told me, "Oh, you're mentoring people." It's like, what? No, am I? It's like, yeah, when you answer to people's question and give them career advice and stuff like that in one-to-one session, it's called mentor. It's like, okay, maybe. So yeah, this is the weird thing. So at some point, I think you just end up doing stuff because you like to help the other people, and the rest follows.
Yeah, that's definitely true for me. We did a show, I think it was last year, where we did Finding Your Life Purpose. And I'm just here to help people and be a catalyst. So however I can do that. As soon as I feel like I know something quite well, I feel like I want to share it. But like Stephanie said, if I don't know something quite well, I'll always want to be honest about that, as some of you found when you asked me questions here that I can't answer. All right. Definitely a Stephanie question. We got an anonymous question. What is your advice for people looking to break into enterprise UX? I usually try to steer the interview conversation towards the process and how that stays the same either way. Any tips you think could be helpful? Breaking into enterprise UX.
I'm not sure about the steering the interview
I
towards the
didn't understand
process.
that
If
totally
Yeah,
either.
if it is about redesigning processes inside companies, so kind of service design-ish, but for enterprise UX is basically, I would say, apply to specific companies that they are working on their internal tools in really specific sectors. So health industry, you have a lot of enterprise UX in these kind of things, because it's either software as a services that are then sold and used by anyone in health, in the health industry, or they'll sometimes build their own products. And company sorry, I got a cold.
Oh, sorry.
Company
Hope it's
that
just a
build,
cold.
yeah, it's just a cold. I've been like sneezing like hell the whole day. It was poor user into I like sneezed so much in a user interview. I think I destroyed their ears. So yeah, SaaS products and like a lot of things in industrial companies. Like I think currently in Luxembourg, one of the company that is dealing with a lot of metallic stuff is hiring UX designers. So there's a lot of places where you think about enterprise UX. It's mostly either working on products and services that will be sold to a company and then this company will use it with internal users. Or you can do like I do, which is I work in an IT department, and the IT department is the one building all the tools for our users. Kind of this eat your own dog food thing. Because our business is so specific that we have a whole IT department just to create the tools for our users. So I'm working in an investment bank, but I think in a lot of different industrial companies, you have these kind of things. And being a consultant here helped, but mostly in Luxembourg, because often those are super big companies and they don't hire contractor directly. Most of the time, you don't even see that there's an offer somewhere. They do a big call of tender, and for the 5 next year, they are allowed to work with this, and this company. So it's kind of a weird process where they kind of do a call for tender so that company are allowed to work with them, and then they can only work with those companies. So what they do is like, yeah, we need a UX designer. They send the offer to those 5 companies, and then those 5 companies either they have the resource or they start recruiting, which is a little bit weird. I don't know how it is in other countries, but for a lot of like super big companies, you have to be kind of shortlisted in the list of, I hate this word, provider. It's like, we have providers. You're basically providing human beings. It's weird to call that a provider. Come on.
It's
But
usually
yeah.
vendor, I think, in America, but I don't think
Yeah.
that's any better.
No, but yeah, that's so. This is why being a consultant for a consulting company also, it kind of opens a few doors that because some of those offers they're just not public. And then I would say put the word out there, like tell people, put it on your LinkedIn profile that you're interested in working in this kind of area. And this is true for any area. If you want to work in health tech or things like that, like sometimes I have recruiters reach out and I tell them I'm currently super happy with my job, but if I was ever to change, I would like to go into this, and this. Most of them don't care, but maybe one day someone will remember, it's like, oh, wait, I got this offer. And I remember at some point, this person told me that she wanted to do this as a career move. So I'm really super transparent with recruiters, which is good luck recruiting me because I love my company and my job. But basically, like, I think if you're talking with recruiters and things like that, just be honest, say, okay, I'm not interested into doing what you're offering at the moment, but if you have offers in, I don't know, health tech or something like that, feel free to reach out or something like that. It's kind of an ongoing exchange at some point.
All right. Before I move on, a new segment on the show is thank you very much to some of the people who are supporting the channel financially here on YouTube by joining and subscribing. There are paid subscriptions here. You get some fancy emoji, but other than that, you mostly get my thanks. And I am very grateful to everybody who does it. It's totally optional. You can turn off your subscription at any time. I'm watching a spider spin a web at my desk, so if I seem to be looking in weird places, I am watching this, and this is wild. I think it's flying. It's just, how does a spider do this? But anyway, thanks to Anita, Chang, Darren, Irena, Jordan, that's what it looks like, Michelle, Nikki, Ralitza, Ray, and Solomon. And this spider who's literally right in front of me. I might have to ask my boyfriend if he can remove this spider. Hi. I've got a spider spinning a web on my screen. I'm good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Stéphanie the next question, and then we're going to deal with the spider. So Stéphanie, your next question is, what would you recommend for a UX researcher who wants to transition into UX design? Where to start? So many options.
I don't know. What is UX design anyway? What's your definition? No, I'm joking around, but it's kind of a real question. It depends what UX design mean for you, because for some people, UX design mean that you do less research, but more like production stuff, like wireframes, prototyping. I would say testing, but for me, testing is also part of user research, so it's a little bit weird. So I'm not sure how to answer that, but I would say I would assume that it means doing less, maybe not so much the research up front, but also going into production. And I would say, yeah, then maybe you need to learn wireframing and prototyping too. Apparently, Debbie has an extra. You have an extra training coming up in December, I think. Yeah.
Yes, I do. Thank you for plugging my
Yes.
thing. I'm teaching
No.
Acture in December. I don't think I have a short link handy, so if you want to take my 2-day live Acture course on December 11 and 12, get in touch with me. Write a comment under the video. I answer all of them personally. Send me a note through our Slack channel. Slack is free to join. There's no membership fees. Delta CX Slack, deltacx.link/join Slack. Send me a note through LinkedIn. I don't have that URL handy, but we are having people register for
Great.
it. And the 2-day live course is $75 American. And sorry, so we went off track there a little bit. Thank you for the plug. But
No, but I'm serious. It really
no,
saved
thank
my
you.
life on some
Well,
projects
thank you.
because I had like super complex wireframes to do, and Figma is cool and you can do a lot of stuff with InVision, but as soon as you get out of the click, 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 and you need to fill up form, keep the data to the next screen and stuff of that, you need something a little bit more heavy than use kind of common tools. And then learn information architecture. It
Well,
sounds silly, but I've seen a lot of. I had to deal with a lot of people doing wireframes, like business analysts, and they try to do the bento box. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna fire up. What's the name of this tool? Balsamic Mockup. I think it still exists.
I guess so.
And they just like open a page and they threw everything in the page and hope for the best. And trying to do this little then bento box is like, oh, there's a few pixels here. Let's put the buttons like, and then I get that. I used to get those, and the people would say the client approved the wireframes. Like, what? But this is balsamic with a 10 pixel font. Once we put the client's identity and the real font size, there's no way this is gonna fit into one screen. And also, we need titles, we need separators, we need a way for the user to make sense of all of this data. It looks really nicely laid out with this Tetris bento box. So yeah, I think as soon as you go into production mode,
More columns.
information information architecture skills is a must. Even if you don't go into the whole UI deciding colors and stuff, because this is more UI design, but at least if you have to do wireframes, prototype stuff like that, yeah, how to make sense of any mess.
Yeah,
Maybe
Abby Covert's
Colbert?
book, How to
Yeah,
Make Sense
hey,
of Any
I'm
Mess.
bad at names.
Also, the Information Architecture for the Web and Beyond book with the polar bear on it. Always recommended. And other than that, obviously, you're working in research. If for some reason you haven't studied cognitive psychology or human behavior, you do want to study that too. And then I just echo what Stéphanie said. So this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. I do this every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. Today I'm joined by special guest Stéphanie Walter, and we will have some more special guests showing up before the year ends. I'm still scheduling that. Emma Muzo says, great book, How to Make Sense of Any Mess. Yes, Abby's working on her next book. I see the anonymous question coming in, but we still have more questions on the list, so we will put you on the end of a long list. Next question is, where to start learning accessibility? What are the ABCs of accessibility in UX?
Ooh, this is a show where I get to plug my favorite ladies in the field. So, Laura Kalbag, accessibility from everyone. It's the green book at a book apart. I don't know if they have other green books, but yeah, it's an amazing book because it's a really, really
It's a
good
green book about
introduction.
accessibility? Are you serious? What about the colorblind?
No, but a book apart, they have, like the whole rainbow. So at some point, I
Okay.
can maybe, can I
Yeah, so you're saying
put
it's a
stuff in the chat?
bookapart.com?
Yeah. Laura Kalbag. It's spelled Laura and Kalbag Kalbag. And yeah, just look at the A Book Apart collection, and it's a really good introduction if you know nothing about accessibility. She wrote it with like really like beginners in mind. The whole why do we need accessibility, technical things, AI, stuff like that. So, and from there, she has tons of resources in the book, so you can dig a little bit further. And then there's something called the Accessibility Project. It's a little bit weird because I don't know how you call that, but when you shorten a word with numbers in the middle.
Oh.
So if you see A11Y, it means accessibility. So it's start with an A, there's 11 stuff in the middle, it ends with a Y. So the accessibility project is actually a11yproject.com. So I think it's weird because it's not really accessible. Then you have to guess what
What does
does
the
this mean,
screen
but
reader
still,
say?
yeah, but it's saying like localization, which is L8N, I think, and translation. I never remember those. But yeah, accessibility project. I don't know if people see the stuff I put in the chat, but yeah, here
No,
you
the
have
chat goes only to
resources.
me. So,
Link the YouTube one.
oh, you're putting stuff in the YouTube chat?
Yeah.
I'm
Does
not.
it
Oh, you
work?
know what? YouTube kills links on the
Because
assumption that
yeah,
you're a
I put
spammer.
links, so
Yeah,
I
sorry.
can try to.
Hopefully, we've given everybody enough information to track down these books. For accessibility, I also
Something
wanted
like that.
to add, and remember, none of these are sponsored. Deck.com, DEQUE. They have a whole bunch of accessibility courses. And if you want to take all of their accessibility courses, you can buy the whole bundle for like 300 American dollars. It's not a crazy amount of money. That might be like what, 280 euros or two something. It's really not that bad. I haven't taken their courses, but I've heard good things. And then we
They
also
have a
some years ago
conference.
we did
Ooh.
WebAIM. We did the WebAIM training, and that was good too. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the Deck, they have a conference in March, and I think it's free
It
and
was,
online
yeah.
and remote. So
Yeah, they had a
they
completely
do it
free
again
conference in
next
March.
year, so it
Yep.
should be fun.
Yeah. All right. So keep an eye on Deck, everybody. All right. Next question. Stphanie, have you ever worked on an enterprise product where the interface was customizable or had several use cases? Could you describe how it was different than your other projects? Perhaps things that mattered more than the usual pitfalls or pitfalls to avoid?
Yeah.
That
Were
sounds
you in
like,
my user interview today?
yeah, I
Because
was
this
going to say,
was
isn't that every
exactly
day for you?
it's basically my everyday conversations with users. So yes, yes,
All
I
the
totally
time.
work on all the time. Next question. No, I'm joking around. Uh, no, so what we have two things. We have customization and personalization. So personalization, I will start with that, is something we do automatically. So we have a lot of user groups. We have, because they do a lot of different daily job. We have lawyers who have to check contracts. We have risk managers, for instance, who have to check climate risk, financial risk, and a lot of other risks on projects, things like that. And this is just like two different jobs, and there's a lot of different users on job. So personalization, on the personalization level, it means that for different reasons, security, but also like risk reasons, we might not show the same information to everyone at the bank. So it means that I, as a designer, needs to be aware that maybe when I'm going to design this screen, some people might only see half of the screen. maybe at some point only half of the people will see the notification at the top or things like that. So it's already a first challenge, which is I need to find ways to design screens with half of the information missing and a lot of different density based on basically user groups and things like that. So this is something we do automatically. And yeah, then we have customization. And customization is a little bit tricky because there's this cognitive bias, which is most people will stick to the default, even if you give them options. So we have kind of the two things where, and we are basically doing more research on that because we don't know yet if we are going to implement that or not. So regarding customization, we have a few things that you can already customize. We have some buttons that will send you to different let's say it's forms. So to simplify, so we have a lot of buttons that will send you to different forms, and based on whatever job you do, you don't need the same form. So for that, you can bookmark the buttons, and then you can say, I don't care about 30 of those. I just want to see those 5 all the time at the bottom of our screen. So you can say, I'm bookmark those 5, and I will see them all the time. And if I ever need other ones, then I will just like bookmark those. So we already have kind of one first degree of customization here. But then we have a lot of users, maybe not a lot, but more and more users who say they might want to remove some content from the screen or things like that. And then the question is, of course, is it worth investing? Like, do we have like 2 users who out of the 1,000 who need that? I think it makes a lot of sense for some users. So we are definitely doing a lot of user research on that. And we also have customization that will apply to the whole system. The basic example is we have timelines, and some people want to see the next date first, and some people want to see the next date at the end. So it depends if you want to work with the past first or if you want to work with the future first, and this really depends. So we have user profile where you can kind of customize a few things, not a lot. So yeah, the problem we have with that at the moment is human beings are bad at predicting their own behavior. And at the moment, we only have declarative data, which is, oh, would totally love to customize this. The question is, yeah, okay, you're saying that today. But if we are actually going to build this customization thing, are you going to use it? So at the moment, we're conducting user research to balance a little bit what would be kind of gadgets around customization and what would be customization that will really bring high benefits and value to most of our users. So it's always kind of a little bit tricky. So it means we are doing a lot of task analysis and observations. And at some point, we will do some usability testing on that, I think, as well, just to make sure that we are building the right thing. And once we will build that, we will monitor the usage. I already told my developers that I want to track every single one of those customization buttons, because if no one is going to use it in the next 6 months, I don't want to clutter the interface with customization option that no one is going to use, even if during the research they said they are going to use that. So for me, it's a really, really, really tricky thing. So at the moment, we're still kind of trying to decide what would be the quick win, what would be the level of customization that would be really easy and fast to develop, to kind of do a first round, and then to see how detailed we want to go. Like, I had a user in an interview that said, I would totally love to have template depending on the type of content. I would like to have this thing at the top. And it's like, yes, sure. I think he's the only one. So, but yeah,
Right.
we have such demands, and then it's about priority, budget, and of course what is going to be the most beneficial for the most users, because at the end of the day we have a team of 5 developers, and we still need to to build the stuff in our budget. So that's also something I need to be careful about, which is in roadmap and things. So yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah,
don't
it's
forget to
quite challenging.
find Stephanie's earlier episode with us where she joined us for a whole episode on enterprise UX. I don't remember the number right now, but you can go to YouTube and you can search Delta, CX, Enterprise. And I bet it'll come up. So use the YouTube search, everybody. It's pretty good. We've got about 15 minutes left, and we have 7 questions. So let's try to shift to some lightning rounds, unless you can stay a little late. Can you stay a little late?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I don't want to bug you. If you have to go, let me know. Our next question is kind of a fun one. Someone wants to know from both of us the last non-UX book we read.
Sandman Slim King Bullet. Fantasy, supernatural, occult noir, something like that. Anti-hero, but fun side characters. So yeah, it's a novel. And also Bad Science. I haven't finished it, but I love it. It's someone debunking all of the kind of weird bogus science around a few things, and I think it's really, really interesting because he helps you understand how real scientific studies should be conducted. So he starts the easy way, like he's debunking detox stuff. So apparently you can go to beauty salon, you can put your feet into a bath, and it's a detox bath. And they say, look, it works because the water turns brown. And they're like, yeah, it's normal because you have salt on your feet because of the sweat. And what they put this kind of, I don't remember the name of the stuff,
chemical.
but it's a chemical reaction with the salt in your feet. So it goes like gradually. And at some point he debunks something about people taking some pills that have chlorophyll in it. So he said someone, a 10-year-old could basically debunk that, because he said, look, how do plants create oxygen with that? They need the sun. So if you put the plant in your stomach, how is this going to get the sun? At some point, if you have sun in your stomach, you might have a problem. So it's like, it can't work. Like, just because you put the green stuff of the plant in your stomach, it's not gonna produce oxygen that will bring more oxygen to your blood or something like that. It's like basically saying a 10-year-old could debunk that one. So, and then he goes on like real scientific studies, and I don't remember the effect, but there's the effect where if you say to someone that something is going to improve and you observe them, it will improve just because they're being observed. So there's like a lot of things about psychology and science and how real scientific studies should be built. So I really enjoyed it. So it's not really UX related, but also it's really fun to read.
As for me, I haven't read any non-UX books in a while because I used to, in 2018 and 2019, really before I got the YouTube thing busy, I was traveling 100,000 miles a year doing speaking and training. So I was reading books on flights. But since I stopped flying, I'm not really reading. But I'm looking at my Kindle account right now, and I can tell you some of what is in here that I did read. I tend to read a lot of books about behind the scenes at Disney World. A lot of people should not be surprised by that, given some of the things I'm a fan of. The best book there was called Building a Better Mouse. It was a really crazy story about how part of Epcot got built in like 1979. And the thing was, the guy who built it had kept like a cassette tape diary at the time. And he went back and listened to his tapes and was able to build the book around things he said and thought at the time. So it was like a great, accurate kind of, accurate from one guy's perspective. And then I was reading a couple of memoirs from people who are still alive. I read The Speed of Sound, which is the memoir of Thomas Dolby. And If I Was, the memoir of Midge Ure. So everybody knows I'm kind of an 80s new wave head. So those books were good. And let's see, Cleaning the Kingdom was surprisingly good. It was a book about the janitors and the cleaning staff at the Disney parks and how they clean stuff. It's surprisingly interesting. You might think like, what? No. Which one is this? Oh, Stories with Raleigh Crump. That was cute. Yeah, basically I read a lot of behind the scenes at Disney books and yeah, and memoirs of 80s musicians I like a lot. So in the chat room, tell us some of the books that you're into. Aytan says, can you put the books on YouTube or Slack? I guess Stephanie, if you send me a message in Slack with the names of some of them, because I don't remember, I'll add them to the description, or just post them in live events in
Yeah.
the live events channel in Slack, and then you can put stuff there. Oh, Sandman Slim's King Bullet. Okay.
The
There you
last
go.
one. I
And
don't like
Bad
endings.
Science. Don't like what?
I don't like endings, and I hate it's the last one of the series. I'm like, meh.
It happens. Okay, more questions. Next one is, how can someone with a psych degree get into their first entry role? I feel like I answer that every week, but Stephanie, what do you want to answer there?
I don't know. It depends on the psych degree, I think, because from what I've seen, psychology, you can have different kind of how do you say that, specialties. So it depends if you're into neuroscience or things like that. But I know people who had a psych degree who entered in UX by doing something in HCI then, so something on top of that. I would maybe say start with design, more into service design or places where you don't have that much UI, where people can actually understand the benefits of psych degree. I also think it depends on the country. For instance, in France, if you're doing a psych degree, they actually advertise that you can become they call it ergonomist. So the person who is going to watch how people work on a daily basis, maybe help them with postures or how to kind of make the different step better and things like that. So yeah, I would say maybe entering directly into, if you're going into UI, more like interface related product might be a little bit more difficult than if you go into service design or more abstract things.
Yeah, and my answer would be same answer I give everybody else, which is show skill and proficiency in UX work. You know, if you're going to go into research, someone is going to want to see a portfolio or case studies or something that shows you know how to do UX research, not necessarily academic psychology research. If you're looking to go more into design, someone's going to want to see a portfolio that shows that you understand all the things Stephanie said earlier, like interaction design and information architecture, wireframing, and prototyping. So I know it sounds like a non-answer, but the best way to get a job is to impress somebody with skills and abilities. There isn't like some sort of secret tunnel that people with psych degrees can take to get into UX. You're unfortunately in the bucket with everybody else who's trying to get into UX. So the best hope you have is to stand out by showing better skills. And since a lot of employers don't want people who have fewer than 1 or 2 years of UX experience, you might be 1 or 2 years away from that first job. It's not necessarily a job that you'll be able to get quickly. So are work samples more important than a degree? Someone in the chat room is saying, and I would say yes. When it comes to UX, there are some people who are impressed by degrees. I think degrees are great to have. It's always, you can't go wrong getting more education and knowledge and practice. But I tend to judge people by their portfolios and work samples and how they talk about their process over did they get a degree or what degree is it?
The only annoying thing is if you work for a university, for instance, like I did, your level, your salary will be based on your level. So if you have a degree, you will be paid less than a master, for instance. And also, like for some, especially in Europe, some institutions, I know it's completely silly, but they ask for a master degree. It makes no sense. And it always annoys me because then there's a lot of really, really good candidates who don't have a master degree in engineering, especially when you less in UX but more into the code part, and they just like they can't hire this candidate because they don't have a master degrees. But sometimes you can have equivalents. So
Right.
I don't remember the math, but it is basically, I think, 3 years of working equals 1 year of study. So if you have only one master degree plus, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 years, something, you can access to the level of the master degree. So, and again, it's completely silly. It makes no sense. But at some point, some people try to make quantitative data with qualitative data, and they put a master degree as kind of a requirement, but you can negotiate. I think you can always say, you look, I have only a degree, like a bachelor, I don't have the master, but I have 10 years of experience. I think it's pretty much the same level or something. So if you have recruiters, ask them if you can have equivalence or something like that. Sometimes it can work, sometimes it might not. But
Right.
yeah, it's a
Agree.
shame, and it's
Yeah,
really
and we have a follow-up question saying,
something annoying.
is a degree really important to get high-paying roles in UX? If you are moving into UX to try to get lots of money, turn around and leave now because it takes many
Mm,
years of experience to get the high paying roles. Many junior jobs, okay, they pay more than selling hamburgers, but it takes the numbers that you see promised on boot camp websites and things like that. That's normally what people make in big cities like San Francisco once you've been working in the industry for 5 or more years. So please don't get sold on working in UX just because there's a potential to make a lot of money. It's only a potential to make a lot of money in certain cities once you have years of experience. So please don't
mm,
be don't be fooled by that. So, and it's not like, other than what Stephanie said about working in more of a university or academic setting, it's not like you get paid more at a corporate UX job if you have a master's than a bachelor's. Generally, you don't. Okay, so let's look at the next question. Tools. Hey, Stephanie, what are the main tools or platforms you use for user research depending on different budgets? Same question for testing. Do you have some preferred tools that you use for research and testing?
For research, Excel and Word. That's the main tool I use. I work in a corporate environment, so we don't have access to a lot of tools, but we have the whole Office suite, so that's always something I
Oh,
can
thank
count
you,
on.
John.
So I have amazing Excel sheets that are color coded and a lot of stuff, but yeah, mostly Excel and Word for the user research. We also use Miro unofficially at the moment, but I know some other people use it as well. So we are trying to have it officially, but it takes time to bring a tool in a super corporate environment to have it officially. So we are kind of flying under the radar on that one. But Miro is more for me because I've been working remotely for 1 year or something, and I just like having a place where I can put like move things around really quickly and brainstorm with colleagues, and we use it to take notes. So I really like that. I have a template, a note-taking template. So every user interview, I will duplicate it, and my colleague takes note during the interview. And I liked it because he's the business analyst and he knows the business way better than I. And sometimes I might not have caught an acronym or something, so I can just like take a look at his notes and say, oh, okay. So I don't look like a fool to the user. It's like, oh, by the way, you talked about this, can we go back on that? And I'm using the right word, the same one they used. So it's really, really cool actually to have someone taking notes live. And so yeah, but mostly this is specific, but Word and Excel. I've never used the platforms that do the recruitment for you because my users are internally. And for the previous jobs I had, we always find our own users based on different criteria. So I can't really help you with that. I don't know if there's budget platforms or I don't know, but I think if you Google like main user recruitment platforms by pricing, you might find an article or even maybe a comparison or something. And For user testing, I think the other question, the fun part is testing. I think like 20% of the job. Like 80% is again preparation, analysis, reporting, taking decision on what you discovered, stuff like that. So it's again like Excel, research plan in Word, and PowerPoint or Keynote when I'm working on my map to do like nice reportings and PDFs and stuff like that. So I don't have really fancy, expensive tools. I know some people are using something that is called Airtable that looks like Excel plus plus because you can do tagging and a lot of stuff. But I really don't know if it's a budget tool or if it's super expensive. And as I said, most of the things that I need to do, I can do them with Word and Excel. So
Very true.
that's
Yeah.
basically it. Yeah.
Yep. And I would
No
add
big secret
quickly,
here.
I change tools all the time, so I don't know if people are watching this in the future, if I'll still use these, and of course they're not sponsored. We've been trying UX Tweak for some of our usability stuff and a card sort. We've been using Dovetail for some of our coding and tagging and transcribing and analysis, though I'm not using it as a repository. We use Miro a lot. I think those are some of my key tools at this time. And sometimes if I just need a quick transcription and I'm not paying for Dovetail, I use Otter because I am paying for Otter every month. All right, we've got 4 questions left, so if you don't mind staying a little late, let's get through them. How do you combine analytics data with qual data? Do you only use it for deliverables? Do you look at analytics like Google Analytics before you start research? At what point do you consider using that data and how?
So I don't have Google Analytics on my current tool because Google, it's a bank. You don't want Google tracking stuff in the bank. No, please
Good
no.
point.
So nope. We are redesigning an existing tool. We have 0 analytics on the tool. The only thing I have is server logs. So the way we work is I asked my colleague to extract the server logs to tell me out of the 400 pages that we need to migrate at some point, which of those are the most used pages.
Ooh.
And then I had interesting surprises because in the top 10, there's like pages where I'm really like, I have no idea what people do on that. So if I would have had Google Analytics, it would have been easier because I could have seen that actually people don't spend a lot of time on that page because they go on this page because there's a link they need. And this link is actually where they want to go. So we have another tool with a search that is really bad. But we are linking to this other tool. So they're basically using our search to find the contracts. And then they go via that link. And this is where you get quantitative data. Qualitative, sorry. So if I would have stuck to quantitative, I would have said, oh, a lot of people use this page all the time. Actually, no, they open the page, click on the link, and bye. But it's a little bit more complicated because for them, the other tool is part of our system, even if it's not. But since they access it through our system, we get a lot of feedback on that tool as well. Because for a user, whether it's tool A, B, or C, if you access everything mostly through A, then B and C become part of A, even if it's a mess because it's not the same IT department. And then you have to negotiate stuff with the other department. So yeah, so what we have is we have quantitative data, the one that we can gather from the server log, and then basically it gives us kind of a first idea of what people do, and then we do qualitative studies like task analysis, observation, but also interviews to really understand, okay, what are you actually doing on those pages? Why do you need this? And what kind of content do you need for that? And yeah, sometimes when you don't have analytics, you can become best friend with developers. Like on another project, we didn't have analytics, and we had analytics, but users jump from one system to the other, and they said, yeah, but we're not tracking that. But I noticed that actually when they did a search, all of the search parameter went into the query directly in the URL string. So I asked the developers, are we actually recording the noise? He said yes. So I went to him. I said, okay, I want to know what parameters are the most used, like how often do we have those search query string with and that parameters. So just because I observed a little bit how it was constructed, I could ask for quantitative data from the developers, and then again do the whole analysis on top of that. So most of the time I start with quantitative data to see what's going on. It's the same when you have like session replays. You see people do stuff. You have no idea why they do the stuff, but you have like 20% of the people who will end up the subscription process, and all of the other ones will just like stop at some point. Then you can maybe try to find where they stop, and you can observe the stuff. But so yeah, it's usually a mix between the two to kind of try to have the whole story and not just like part of it.
Thank you. Okay, we've got 3 questions left. Ready?
Yay.
As a researcher, what should I work on while waiting for testing resources like recruiting or budget?
I would say prepare the plan and maybe prepare several plans, because usually you want to put the budget in the plan. So I would say maybe do a cheap plan. We have more budget plan, and we have amazing big budget plan, so that once you get a budget, you can maybe have options. And if you are between two budgets, maybe you can even negotiate to say, "Yay, look, can we have a small, little bigger budget? Like, do you want an upsell? If we just have this at this budget, then we could go for this." So I would say, yeah, try to prepare the plan and try to find maybe cheaper alternatives. I think you have a whole podcast on how to access users without accessing them. So there's a lot of interesting things there, from checking support ticket to other things, but it really depends in what you work. Like, I know someone who was working on video games, and she didn't have access to the video game or the users, but she knows that usually the game company is sending some preview of the game to some streamers. So what she did is she logged into the streams, and she checked not only what the streamers were saying about the video games, but also the YouTube comments of the people, what they were doing. And she did this kind of analysis where you analyze the words that the people are using. So she did not have access to the users, but she found a way to gain some data. So yeah, like working around that while waiting for a budget could be a good solution.
Yep, I agree. I like the idea of taking that time not only for the planning, but for any kind of secondary research or desk research. Totally agree. Now we have Destiny's question. Sorry, Destiny, it took like a hour to answer it. What methods have you used to build personas for hard to get user bases? I think Destiny works in decentralized finance.
I never build personas for how to get user bases. So
Okay,
I
are you
can't really
building
answer that
personas?
one. Not really, because we would have 50 of them.
That's a
So
big
we are
block
not
of personas.
Yeah, we are not working on personas. We are more working on what tasks and activities people do. I think Larry called these hats. It's like, I
Yes.
don't care if the assistant is a lady in her 50s or a man who's, I don't know, 25, and I don't care about how proficient they are into Excel or something like that. I care that they need to do that, and that on daily job, and maybe not only assistants, maybe someone else from another directorate or something. So we are more oriented towards, we group them by business processes, to put it in. So we
Right,
investigate
roles.
business process, yeah, roles, but really related to business. So
Yeah, and I think personas are not always needed. Sometimes you just find key behaviors and you just create simple typologies instead of more detailed personas. We do have the micro lesson on task analysis personas. That might help some people with some ideas. If you have a hard to get user base, it's hard for me to say too much about that. I'm not too sure why they're hard to get. Sometimes companies say it's a hard to get user base because they're surgeons and we would have to pay them so much for their time to do an interview. Sometimes there's privacy issues and that's why you can't get people. So maybe because it's decentralized finance, you might not fully know who the users are, but you can still go out to panels and you could recruit for people who use cryptocurrency or trade cryptocurrency or use NFTs, or, these people are out there. Even if you don't know your exact customer, you can try to meet and interview people based on the target audience that the business and product is trying to reach, and then see if meeting a whole pile of those people give you some ideas on personas. Let's see. Oh, and Aytan says, Michelle Aronson advised on the show to create a lookalike group if you don't have access to users. Or probably Michelle Ronson. Oh, yeah, not Aronson.
Yeah, Ronson.
She's just Michelle Ronson said, create a lookalike. Yeah, who is Aronson? Aytan says. I don't know. You typed it. Michelle Ronson advised a lookalike group, and I think lookalike groups are pretty Googleable, so I don't want to take too much more of Stephanie's time. And, of course, the last question you actually answered on the last show that we did together, and I found it, everybody. It's episode 117. So go into the Delta CX YouTube archives, go into the playlist of live streamed podcasts, or just go to YouTube and look up Delta CX 117, and it'll probably come up because you did talk about competitive analysis in that show, I'm pretty sure. Right?
Yes.
So I think there's a longer answer there, but you've been so kind to stay 12 minutes late. I don't want to make you stay any longer. So I think people who are interested in enterprise UX should please watch Stephanie's full episode with us, episode 117. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us for more than an hour and giving us your opinions and answers. And any last words or ideas for everybody?
I don't know.
Okay.
Take care of yourselves.
That's right. Please.
Maybe because I'm hungry, so I'm biased.
Okay, go have your dinner. Sorry to keep you late.
Good food. No, don't worry.
You're getting hearts from Aytan. Yes, eat good food, wear masks, be safe. And Stephanie, I hope we'll have you back again soon. And everybody be well, and we'll see you on another stream very soon. Thanks. Bye. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are